Welcome to Shenkman Education. My name is Marty Shenkman. The topic for this clip is asset protection. Everybody needs it, including you. What is asset protection? Asset protection is taking prudent, reasonable, appropriate steps to protect your assets from lawsuits and claims. We live in a very litigious society. Look at the billboards when you drive cross country. There are billboards outside every major city and even elsewhere. You know, in a crash, need cash, call this number. We live in a litigious society. There are certainly significant risks that anybody and everybody face. It's not just the wealthy surgeon, whether they're wealthy or not, but surgeons face potentially a 20% risk of being sued each year. It's really very, very detrimental, but many people face the risk of lawsuits and claims. Everyone should take steps to protect them. There's a continuum from where you can go. Some of the most minimum things that can be done at modest cost. Live safely, live smartly. You know, think about the things that you do. Don't let a young kid that's been drinking drive a car. It sounds ridiculous, but there's lots of prudent steps. If you have a business, operate it safely. If you have a rental property, make sure there's smoke detectors and fire extinguishers. Live safely and smartly. It's worth trying to avoid a suit. That's defense one. Second defense, which everybody knows and you know, is buy proper insurance. Often people don't have adequate insurance. If you have a rental property, make sure you don't only have proper landlord's coverage, but make sure you have a commercial excess liability or umbrella policy if you can't get enough liability coverage on that policy. If you're a homeowner and drive a car, you probably have a limited amount of liability coverage on your homeowners and auto coverage. You can buy what's called a personal excess liability or umbrella policy for personal use, so that if you're sued in a car accident or something happens at your home, you have potentially $1 million or millions of dollars of liability coverage over and above what your core policies provide for. And make sure that you get sufficient umbrella coverage. Many people that buy it only buy $1 million, and if you're worth 5 or 10 or $20 million, $1 million of coverage is not enough, and the cost is not that significant. So that's even basic asset protection planning. Next is a very common thing that many people know but often don't execute properly, and I'll tell you why, is if you have a business endeavor, if you have a rental property, have it owned by an entity. The most commonly used, but far from the only option, is a limited liability company. You can have an LLC, that's limited liability company, own each separate rental property, each separate business. Make sure it's properly formed under state law, make sure you do the proper legal documents, make sure you respect the formality of the entity. That's critical in the place that many people foul up using entities. The fact that you create an entity, make sure the bank account for the business is in the entity. Make sure when you sign contracts, you sign in the name of the entity. Jane Smith as manager, if it's a manager managed LLC, or as member, if it's a member managed LLC, of the XYZ LLC. You got to do all the formalities. If you ignore the formalities, you can't expect a court to respect and adhere to the formalities if in event you're sued. So we started live smart, safe, take precautionary steps, get appropriate insurance coverage, consult with a smart insurance agent. Not everybody really understands all the nuances of the products and what's available and the coverage limits. Many people get, a low deductible because, oh my, I don't want to be out of pocket, but they're short on the high end, which is where the real risk to their net worth could occur. Use entities judiciously. Another final layer, which is going down the continuum, remember I said you start basic and you get more, is using irrevocable trust to hold assets. So for example, if you have a LLC that owns a rental property and you create two separate irrevocable trusts, and each trust owns 50% or half of an LLC, if somebody pierces through a trust, and it may not be easy to pierce through an irrevocable trust, but same issue I said for entities. You have to operate it properly, you have to respect its formalities, because the court won't respect it if you don't. If they can only get 50% of an LLC, if they pierce a trust, they still can't control if you have what's called charging order protection, which is a protective feature depending on state law that various entities, LLCs, may afford. So in conclusion, asset protection is something critical for everybody, from a modest wage earner with minimal net worth, a young person, to somebody who's incredibly wealthy. The level and the steps that you take should be logical, reasonable for what you do, but everyone should take steps and get on that continuum of moving towards asset protection. And again, some of the steps that we just talked about, even in irrevocable trust, even forming entities, doesn't have to be that costly or that complicated. So make sure you take steps that make sense to protect yourself. You don't want to lose everything you've worked your lifetime for to a lawsuit or claim. Thank you for joining me, and please keep in mind that all the information on Shenkman Education is for educational purposes only. Don't take any steps without consulting appropriate professional advisors. Thank you.